Okay, really quick before the video starts, if you like liminal spaces or weirdcore or digital horror stuff, join my Discord. It's a great community. Yeah, okay, video time. I have this dream sometimes. I'm in a big, old pool area. Not the usual fun and sunny kind where you'd want to jump in. This one is inside a huge building and feels like nobody has visited it in years. As you walk in, you get a smell that's a mix of old water with chlorine, like in swimming pools, and the scent of a place that hasn't been used for a long time. Even though it's indoors, there's this odd light that makes it hard to tell if it's almost morning or almost night. This kind of light reminds me of when you're outside just before the sun comes up or just as it's going down. It's mysterious and everything looks a bit different in it. You get the sense that this place isn't really stuck in day or night, but somewhere in between. I can hear my own footsteps echoing, which makes the place feel bigger and even more lonely. There are changing rooms that feel like a maze, rows of old storage lockers, and even handrails that are now dusty. The pool itself is the star of the show. It's super big with still water that reflects the weird light around. The water is a deep blue, and it feels endless. Standing there, I notice a faint sound of dripping water echoing from somewhere, reminding me that this place was once full of activity. It's beautifully eerie. It doesn't scare me, but it makes me feel like I've stepped into a different world that's kind of paused in time. Dreams sometimes feel like this. Not the regular dreams, but a special kind called liminal dreams. The word liminal is fancy and comes from Latin. It means something that's in the middle, like standing in a doorway where you're neither fully inside or outside. And that's how this dream feels, like being stuck between two places or two times. Maybe you've been to places that feel in between too, like an empty school after classes are over, an airport super early in the morning, or a big store just as it's closing. They're familiar yet different, making you feel like you've stepped out of your regular day for the moment. Do you ever get that chilly, mysterious feeling? This isn't just make-believe. Sometimes in real life, we come across places that make us feel the same way that we do in these dreams. They're called liminal spaces. It's like they're waiting for something to happen or for someone to show up. It's a bit strange, but interesting. These places are both calming and a little eerie, kind of like the pool in that dream. Here's a fun fact. Some really smart and creative people from history, like inventors Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla, had tricks to dive into these liminal dreams. They'd hold a metal ball as they started falling asleep. The moment they began to dream and their hand relaxed, the ball would fall and wake them up. This was their way to remember the unique ideas and images from those dreams. Cool, right? It's fascinating to think that our minds create dreams that feel like these in-between spaces in the real world. It's like there's a bridge connecting our dreams and reality. Dreams can make us feel lost, excited, or even nostalgic, just like when we visit an old, forgotten place. And it's not just me who feels this way. I've heard stories from others who felt the same mix of emotions. Emma, for instance, talked about a dream where she's inside an old house. Every room had dusty furniture and old pictures, telling stories of grand days long gone. Even though she never lived there, she felt a sad connection, like missing a place she never knew. Another person, Ben, had a dream of an endless forest, with trees so tall they seemed to touch the clouds. He felt tiny, amazed, but also very alone, as if he was the last person on Earth. These stories show that many of us feel similar things in our dreams, even if the dreams themselves look different. The feelings they felt in their dreams match the emotions some of us have felt in real places that feel stuck in time. This makes me wonder, could there be a connection? Maybe our dreams take from our real life experiences and give them a twist, or perhaps the emotions and feelings we have in our dreams affect how we feel in real life places that are quiet and timeless. You know that weird state when you're just about to fall asleep or just waking up, and your mind shows you odd pictures or tells you strange stories? That's when these liminal spaces often happen. Scientists call it hypnagogia when it happens as we're falling asleep, and hypnopompia when it's as we're waking up. These unique stages of dreaming have been a subject of curiosity for centuries. Dreams that happen during these times are vivid and often mix our real-world experiences with the bizarre. Sometimes they make sense, and sometimes they're just a mishmash of images, sounds, and feelings. It's like our brain is having a party, and it's inviting both our memories and its own wild ideas. What's super interesting is that this is when our brain is between being fully awake and fully asleep. Just like that big indoor pool area or the in-between spaces I mentioned earlier, this dream state feels like it's caught between two worlds. Some dream experts believe this is the time when we can best access our deepest thoughts and most creative ideas. But why are these dreams so special? Some scientists believe it's because different parts of our brain are active during this time. It's like several of the brain's departments, memory, emotion, and imagination, are all having a meeting, and together they create these unforgettable dream scenes. Others think these dreams could be our mind's way of making sense of our day. It's like taking bits and pieces of what we saw, felt, or heard and mixing them together like a movie director. Only this movie is often more mysterious and magical, adding its own twist to our memories. Alright, so we're talking about liminal spaces. Think of these as special areas that are between one place and another, like hallways or waiting areas. They're not really the main event, but are there to help you get from one main place to another. You know, like when you're walking through school at night and it feels really empty and quiet, or maybe you've seen a big shopping mall after all the shops have closed and it's super silent, or a hotel lobby really early in the morning when almost no one is around. Those are liminal spaces. During the daytime, these places are full of noise and people, but when they're empty, they feel different, kind of like they're waiting for something. It's like they've paused and are holding their breath. Think of a mall. During the day, it's super noisy with people talking, shopping carts rolling around, and music playing in the background. But at night, it's super quiet. All the stores are closed and their lights are off. The area where everyone sits and eats, completely empty. It feels lonely and very different from the busy place it was just a few hours earlier. Schools also feel different at night. When school's in session, there's a lot of energy with students everywhere. But at night, the halls are empty and the rooms are dark. The noise is gone and it feels like the school is waiting for everyone to come back. Hotels are another example. Have you seen or read about the hotel in The Shining by Stephen King? During the daytime, there are lots of people around and staff working. But during the night, the hallways are quiet. And it's like you're in a big maze, with each room being its own little world. In all these places, there's a special feeling. It's like they're caught between being really familiar and being a bit mysterious. They're not just regular spaces, but have a certain magic to them. And guess what? The way we feel in these spaces is similar to the feelings we get in certain dreams. When you're in a quiet school hallway or an empty mall, you might feel a bit weird or nostalgic. And these feelings can be the same as when you're dreaming. Okay, so these feelings are interesting, right? Sometimes you feel like something is not quite right, like you're in a place that seems familiar but also a bit off. And sometimes you feel this longing, like you're missing something, or some time that has passed. Why do we feel this way? Well, there's this idea called the uncanny valley. It's when something looks really close to being real, but it's just a tiny bit off, and it makes us feel weird. It's like seeing a robot that looks like a person but isn't quite right. This can be the same for places. When a busy place becomes super quiet, it feels a bit strange. Also, humans are used to patterns. We like things we can recognize and understand, but in these in-between spaces, things are not as we expect, so it feels strange. On the other hand, there's the feeling of missing something or being nostalgic. These spaces seem like they're outside of regular time, like they belong to some other time or remind us of some other time. Even if we didn't experience that time personally, we feel like we're missing it. Also, we're so used to noise and lots of things happening around us that when it's suddenly quiet and empty, it feels odd. But there's also something nice about the quiet. It's like a break, and it makes us think and remember things, which can make us feel nostalgic. In the end, these spaces are both interesting and a bit mysterious. They feel different and make us think and feel in different ways. And funnily enough, some dreams can make us feel that way too. It's like our brain is trying to show us these feelings in our dreams. For another example, I once had a dream about my grandparents' house. Usually it's a warm and happy place, but in the dream, everything looked old and worn out. The house seemed endless with many rooms and hallways, all looking exactly the same. Even though it was weird, I also felt a longing for the happy times I had there in the past. The dream made the house feel like one of those in-between spaces. It was both familiar and strange, like walking in a park right as the sun is coming up. The space is in between, holding on to memories of the past and the quiet of the present. In a strange way, my dream had transformed my grandparents' house into a liminal space. The once familiar setting was now both foreign and intimately known. Akin to a school after hours or a park at dawn, it was a space in between, holding on to both its past vibrancy and its present desolation. As fascinating as these liminal dreams are, they beg the question, why does our brain create such dreams? What do they tell us about our subconscious? Neurologically, dreams occur during the REM, rapid eye movement, stage of sleep, and liminal spaces are unique in that they straddle the border of REM sleep and wakefulness. This transitional phase is a breeding ground for the peculiar phenomena of hypnagogia and hypnopompia, the states of consciousness between wakefulness and sleep. Imagine standing at the edge of a pool, dipping a toe into the water, but not quite jumping in. That's what it's like for the brain during this time. Our brains are like grand conductors orchestrating a symphony of neural activity. During liminal dreaming, parts of the brain associated with emotional processing, like the amygdala, are highly active. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, our center for logical reasoning and decision making, is less so. It's like the brain is hosting a party where emotions have taken center stage, while logic is taking a break in the back rooms. Oh god. What results is a dreamscape free from the constraints of reality, a space where feelings and emotions can manifest in ways they can't in our waking lives. For example, that eerie dream about my grandparents' house may reflect a subconscious longing for the past, coupled with an understanding of its irretrievable nature, its nostalgia and loss, echoing through the corridors of my subconscious and materializing in the form of a dream. Dr. Ruben Niemann, a psychologist and sleep and dream specialist, describes liminal dreaming as a cinema of the psyche. This fascinating theater can allow for profound introspection and a deeper understanding of our fears, desires, and thoughts. The gray, lifeless version of my grandparents' house might be my mind's way of processing change and loss, using familiar surroundings as a canvas. Research has shown that certain people might be more susceptible to experiencing liminal dreams. Think of it like a sliding scale, where at one end we have people who scarcely remember their dreams, and at the other end are those who experience vivid, bizarre, and intense dreams, the so-called high dream recallers. Now, these high dream recallers often tend to experience liminal dreams more frequently, but what makes them different? One key factor might be our personality types. According to a study by psychologist and dream researcher Dr. Patrick McNamara, people who score high in the personality trait of openness to experience often remember their dreams more and have more intense dream experiences. It's as if these people have a VIP pass, allowing them to journey deeper into the labyrinth of their minds during sleep. Our past experiences also play a critical role. Remember the nostalgia-tinged dream about my grandparents' house? Well, our dreams often serve as a reflection pool for our memories. The spaces, the people, the feelings we've encountered in our lives can all resurface in our dreams, sometimes faithfully replicated, and sometimes distorted or combined in bizarre ways. This is especially true for liminal dreams, where familiar places or people can take on an uncanny, in-between character. Furthermore, our mental states can influence our dreams. We've all heard of stress dreams before, right? They're like your brain's way of venting out the day's tensions, like a pressure cooker letting off steam. Similarly, feelings of transition, change, or instability in our waking lives can manifest in our dreams as surreal liminal spaces. They're a mirror to our minds, reflecting our mental states in a language that's more symbolic than literal. A remarkable case highlighting the power of liminal dreams is that of famous chemist Friedrich August Kekuele. Known for his groundbreaking work on the structure of the benzene, Kekuele attributed his scientific breakthrough to a liminal dream. While wrestling with the structure of the benzene molecule, Kekuele found himself in the borderland of sleep, a state ripe for liminal dreaming. He dreamt of atoms dancing before his eyes, forming strings that twisted in a snake-like motion. Suddenly, one of the snakes formed a circle, biting its own tail. Upon waking, Kekuele realized this was the solution he'd been seeking. The benzene molecule was structured as a ring, a discovery that would revolutionize organic chemistry. The renowned English poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge famously relied on liminal dreaming for his creation of the poem Kubla Khan. Falling into a drug-induced slumber, he experienced a lengthy and detailed dream in which the entire poem came to him, fully formed. Upon awakening, he hurriedly began to write down the lines he could recall, resulting in the first part of the poem. His dreamlike state induced by opium was a gateway to his liminal dream, and thus to one of the most celebrated poems in the English language. Finally, consider the intriguing practice of Tibetan dream yoga. This ancient Buddhist practice involves the cultivation of lucidity during the dream state, similar to the conscious awareness that can occur during liminal dreams. Practitioners of dream yoga train to recognize the dream state and to consciously explore and manipulate it. They use their dreams for spiritual growth and insight, illustrating yet another transformative application of liminal liminal dreams. We, as a society, are totally hooked on the idea of liminal spaces, those strange, eerie places that are in between. They're not really here or there, but somewhere in the middle. And it's easy to see this obsession cropping up all over our culture. Take our favorite movies and books. For example, in Harry Potter, there's that magical platform 9 3/4, a weird in-between space that's the gateway to a whole other world of witches and wizards. Or think about the fantasy realm in Stranger Things. It's called the Upside Down, but it might as well be called Liminal Space Central. It's a mirror of our world, but darker, stranger, and full of monsters. Then there's the growing trend of urban exploration, where people get a kick out of exploring abandoned buildings and forgotten places. It's like being an adventurer in your own city, stepping into spaces that time left behind. For some, it's the thrill of finding hidden histories or seeing places most people will never see. But for others, it's that eerie, liminal feeling that draws them in. That's going into the video. But why are we so fascinated by these in-between spaces? Well, they kind of mirror our own life experiences. We all go through moments of change and transition, times when we're not quite here or there. Think about starting a new job or moving to a new city. You're in between the old and the new, and it feels strange, maybe even a little scary. Liminal spaces capture this feeling. They're physical stand-ins for these mental and emotional shifts we all go through. Plus, these spaces feed our curiosity. In a world where you can Google just about anything, these places still hold some mystery. They make us question what's normal and challenge us to think outside of our usual day-to-day lives. A great example of this is how our interest in liminal spaces spiked during the COVID-19 pandemic. Suddenly, places that were once bustling with activity became eerily quiet and deserted. Schools, malls, offices, they all turned into real-life examples of liminal spaces, right in front of our eyes. This wasn't just spooky, it was downright unsettling, but it also stirred up a sort of fascination in us. Suddenly, we were all clicking on those YouTube videos of abandoned theme parks and empty city streets. We were drawn to these spaces that felt frozen in time, stuck between what they were and what they would become. And this reflects something important about us. During the pandemic, we were all in a kind of liminal space ourselves. We were caught in the middle of what life used to be and what it was turning into. Everything was changing and nothing felt certain. So these physical liminal spaces resonated with us because they mirrored what we were going through on the inside. But even as life returns to normal, our interest in liminal spaces hasn't waned. And that says something too. Maybe it shows that we've all become a little bit more comfortable with uncertainty, a little more open to change. Or maybe it reveals a deeper desire in us to break away from the norm, to explore the mysteries of the world and the mysteries of our own minds. Either way, our love for liminal spaces seems to reflect a shift in our collective psyche. It's a sign of the times, a symbol of the complex, ever-changing world we live in, and it's proof that sometimes the most interesting places are the ones in between. These uncanny in-betweens, both in our dreams and in our world, serve as mirrors of our emotional experiences and societal shifts. And just as we stand at the doorway of a deserted room in a dream, we too stand at the precipice of a deeper understanding of our collective psyche. But here's one final thought. What if these liminal spaces and dreams are more than just symbolic? What if they're doors waiting to be opened, leading us to a more profound understanding of ourselves and our society? That's the invitation extended to all of us, the lingering question that begs us to keep exploring, to keep wondering, and to keep dreaming.